Let's turn back to Isaiah 14. And in verse 11, thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vials, the worm is spread under thee, and worms cover thee. And this chapter is dealing with the fall of Babylon, the fall historically of the king of Babylon, and it relates. It's a picture. Remember, God called it a proverb. In verse 4, take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, which is another word for parable. It has a spiritual meaning. And it's picturing what happened on May 21 when Babylon fell and was taken over by Christ, and he commanded the captives to be freed. And so it says in verse 12, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven, I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. And compare 2 Thessalonians 2:4 with this statement in the next couple of verses, and you'll see that, yes, the man of sin is Satan himself, who's taken his seat in the temple, ruling like a king. To be seated in the Bible indicates you're ruling. And he very proudly, as Nebuchadnezzar the king typified him and was extremely arrogant and proud, Satan too ruled with great pride, but now he's fallen. And verse 13, for thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven, I will exalt my throne above the stars of God, I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. And there's the great heights of pride. To dare to be like God, to desire to be worshipped as God is worshipped. And that's why this is so hard on Satan, because now it's being seen, as God is opening up the Bible, it's being seen and people are learning that he's as weak as anyone else. He's as weak as anyone, that his kingdom has been taken and all of his spiritual bondservants have been released and they are free, and a great number, 200 million, have been loosed and set free out of the kingdom of darkness. And yet here from this lofty position, and God warned us, and I suppose him, and God warns anyone who in their pride would exalt themselves high up, beware, because I'll bring you low. And this is the time that God is bringing Satan low. And verse 15, yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee and consider thee, saying, is this the man, he's typified by king of Babylon, a man, that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms, that made the world as a wilderness and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of his prisoners, just like Pharaoh. See, the bondage in Egypt, the bondage in Babylon overlap in the way God views them. They're many ways synonymous. And just as Pharaoh would not let the people go, who is Jehovah that I should let them go? The king of Babylon would not let his prisoners go. No, he had taken them. But now, at the end of that 70-year period, it's the time of release. Verse 18, all the kings of the nations, even all of them, lie in glory, everyone in his own house. But thou art cast out of thy grave like an abominable branch, and as the raiment of those that are slain, thrust through with a sword, that go down to the stones of the pit, as a carcass trodden under feet. Thou shalt not be joined with them in burial. Speaking of Satan, he's for all intents and purposes, his rule is finished. He's being punished. He's dead, at least as the beast. And don't bury him. Not as if you could, right? How do you bury a spirit being? Which it really is a clue that helps us understand. When we were thinking God would open up the ground and bring up the unsaved dead and their remains and scatter them all over the earth in full view of everyone, we realized that's a shameful thing. That's correct. Of course, that didn't happen. But what did happen is that Satan himself, in his fall as the king of Babylon, is now likened to dead kings, and his carcass is exposed. It's laying out in the open for all to see. And so this is God's plan, that at this time Satan be shamed and exposed. And even earlier, where we read in verse 11 about his pomp is brought down to the grave, and the worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. The worm has to do with shame. And so here is the king of Babylon, and his body is exposed, and worms are covering him. It's an ugly sight, and it's a very shameful thing, and yet it's all spiritual. Because you can't see an angel, unless that I know of, they're spirit beings. And yet God is speaking of Satan, that he's dead but not buried. And I think we can learn from that to look maybe at some of those other passages that we thought that the actual physical bodies of unsaved people would be exposed and shamed. It's not one thing we can learn right now. Since Satan is a spirit being, and he's obviously, you can't see his body, that does mean that God could be viewing unsaved man at this time in one way or another as being exposed and also be shamed, because again, that would be a spiritual thing, just as it is with Satan. Well, we saw statements that after 70 years Babylon falls, right? Revelation 18, no need to turn there. Revelation 18 says, verse 2, and he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, is fallen. In Revelation 14, verse 7, saying with a loud voice, fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made heaven and earth and the sea and the fountains of waters. And there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. Wherever we see Babylon is fallen, think May 21. May 21, and it helps when you read the rest of the information that follows, it helps us to see what's going on now. So Babylon falls, and the king of Babylon is punished. That's what God said about the Babylonian king. Nebuchadnezzar wasn't alive in 539. But the king of Babylon, who happened to be Belshazzar at that time, was slain that very night when the Medes and the Persians took the kingdom. That's one thing. Isaiah 14 tells us he's weak. He's likened to being dead, a rotting carcass that's exposed to the sun. All these statements are the opposite of what happened at the beginning of the Great Tribulation, when God said of Nebuchadnezzar, my servant, and I'll use him. I'm going to allow him to overrun Judah, to destroy Jerusalem. My servant, because my people are unfaithful. And so God judged them using Nebuchadnezzar. And many other statements in the Bible. He's the beast who was given rule for 42 months. That he was given authority. Now we know, whenever we see for the 5-month period someone having authority, it's not him and it's not his kingdom. So with that in mind, let's turn to Revelation 9. Revelation 9 says in verse 1, actually I'll read the first 5 verses and then we'll back up. And a fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth. And to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, that's the word authority, 1849 in the Strong's, as the scorpions of the earth have power, same word, authority. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months. And their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he striketh a man. Here, the locusts are given authority. They're given authority for 5 months to bring a message, actually, but by reading this, we have no idea what they're bringing. It just says, unto them was given authority as the scorpions of the earth have authority. So scorpions have this authority, and the locusts have authority like scorpions. But before we get there, let's back up to verse 1. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. The star is Jesus. Revelation 22, which is really the only verse we need, but you could also look at Numbers 24:17. Revelation 22:16 says, I, Jesus, have sent mine angel to testify unto you these things in the churches. I am the root and the offspring of David and the bright and morning star. The same word. And Numbers 24:17, God refers to a star and a scepter, and it again is a prophecy pointing to Christ, and so he is likened here to a star which falls from heaven to the earth, and he has a key that was given him. Look at Revelation 1, verse 18. I am he that liveth and was dead, and behold, I am alive forevermore. Amen. And have the keys of hell and of death. Okay, let me just check something. Okay, so there Christ, if you read the context, is clearly the one who has the key. And then over in Revelation 3, verse 7, and to the angel of the church in Philadelphia write, these things saith he that is holy, he that is true, he that has the key of David, he that openeth, and no man shutteth, and shutteth, and no man openeth. And that's a quote from Isaiah 22:22. And so Jesus is the one who has the key of David, and with this key, he can open. We saw he loosed Satan, and he also locks, because he put Satan in there to begin with. He bound him for 1,000 years. And in Revelation 9, there's a key. The star has a key. Christ has the key to open the bottomless pit. And out come locusts on the earth for the 5-month period. So that's the first thing we need to understand, is Jesus is the one. He has all authority. He is God. And he has the key. And so he has the key of the bottomless pit. And in verse 2, and he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth. Now, what really confuses things is this reference, or a couple of references to a bottomless pit. What is a bottomless pit? Well, we have to be careful because it's found, I think, 9 times in the New Testament. Bottomless pit. But only in a few of those instances is there 2 words. The word which is translated bottomless, and another word translated pit. The both words are in Revelation 9:1. The word bottomless, which is, I'll just say the abyss. It's abuso. We get our English word, the abyss, from. And that is translated bottomless. And pit is another Greek word that is found there. And also in verse 2, it's the same 2 Greek words. But in other places, you might only have the word abuso or abyss, and you don't have the word pit, but it's still translated as bottomless pit. So that's what I mean. We have to be a little careful. Over in verse 11 of Revelation 9, they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit. Well, the Greek word pit isn't there, but it's still translated bottomless pit. And that's a very mysterious thing, isn't it? A bottomless pit. And we just naturally associate it with evil. Evil. And look at these locusts. They're coming. Actually, it doesn't say they come out of the pit, but they come out of the smoke of the pit. But since the smoke came out of the pit, I think we could say they came out of the pit. Actually, I don't think that harms anything. But technically, they came out of the smoke of the bottomless pit, and they have stings like scorpions, and they're going about tormenting people for 5 months. It really sounds bad, and yet who are these locusts? What are they? Who do they represent? Well, before we look at them, let's go to Revelation 20 and verse 1. Again, I think we read this last time. And I saw an angel come down from heaven. An angel is a messenger. But Christ is called the messenger of the covenant in the Old Testament. He's Michael, the archangel, the chief messenger. So anyone who brings a message from God can be called an angel, or angelos, which really many times that we have it translated as angel, it should be translated messenger. But it did help God to conceal a lot of things. When you read about 7 angels carrying the 7 last plagues, or later on in Revelation 9, it speaks of 4 angels that are bound in the great river Euphrates. And, our minds naturally go, okay, angels, spirit beings. Well, how do you bind an angel? How do you bind an angel and throw him into a great river? What would that represent? Well, they're not angels. They're not angels. They're not spirit beings. But we'll get to that a little later. In Revelation 20, I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit, and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon. Well, let's stop a second, because here is Christ, this messenger coming down from heaven. He's the one that has the key of the bottomless pit. In this case, he's going to open it, but he also has a great chain. I guess think of like an anchor on a huge ship, and they drop the anchor and the chain comes out of the ship, this huge chain. And here Christ has a chain, and he lays hold of the devil. Look at Matthew 14 and verse 3. For Herod had laid hold on John and bound him and put him in prison